Welcome everyone. Thanks for everyone who's joined on the call already. We'll wait a couple of minutes before kicking off to allow other attendees just to join the webinar, so we'll just wait a couple of minutes. You should start to see some polls pop up on the screen as you enter. And just while we wait for the other attendees to join, it would be great if you could put some responses into these polls. I appreciate you responding to them as they pop up. We'll also have a few more of these polls towards the end of the presentation, where I'll ask a few more questions of you as well. And just while we wait for a few others to join, so this webinar is targeted at residential and solar electricians looking to understand and expand their knowledge of solar-enabled EV charging. I know there'll be people joining today from different backgrounds or professions, and you're all still very much welcome, but the webinar is targeted to residential and solar electricians. This is also the first webinar we've done specifically aimed at the residential EV charging space. Last year, we also hosted an Ask Me Anything event with our CEO live in person at our Melbourne office. And we also did a webinar on multi-residential apartment EV charging. And as we head into 2025, one of our key aims is to deliver more content, more webinar, share more of our expertise with the electrical industry and all of you attending today. So please keep an eye out. And there'll be more to come, but yeah, we'll give everyone another 30 seconds or a minute, and then we'll start the presentation. Great, well, we'll kick things off. So hi there, hi everyone, welcome to our webinar on solar-enabled EV charging today. We're really happy to have you all attending, and I'm really looking forward to sharing some of the expertise that we have in this field with you. My name is Tate Benito, and I'm the Customer Success Manager within JetCharge's wholesale business. I've also been at JetCharge for the last 6 years, and my focus is on engaging with electricians like yourselves to understand what you all might need to help grow your own EV charging business. We're presenting today with our key hardware partner for solar charging, and that's myenergi. And so I've got John Warnock next to me. John's the Technical Services Manager at myenergi. And John, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Dave. So I've been with myenergi for 3 years this month, something that I'm really excited about. It's a role that sort of really aligns with my values, and I love coming to work. Not loving this than I did when I leave at the end of the day, so I'm learning new things every day and always looking to share that with anyone who's interested. So yeah, happy to be here, and hope you get some really helpful information out of this session.
Great, thanks, John. So John and I will be co-hosting the webinar today. We'll start by providing an introduction to JetCharge and myenergi before we provide an overview of the EV market and the opportunity that solar EV charging can offer to residential and solar electricians like yourselves. John will then take the reins and introduce the award-winning Zappi solar charger and its specs in more detail. John will summarise the installation requirements and the requirements for solar integration, as well as dynamic load management. And then John will hand back over to me, where I'll explain how you can order and view information on the Zappi solar charger through our JetCharge online partner store. At the end of the webinar, all attendees will also get an exclusive discount code that you can use on the partner store when making your first purchase through that store. We'll also provide you with an online questionnaire. It's like a tool that will help you streamline your intake of leads and also your quoting process when taking on solar EV charging opportunities in a residential setting. And so we'll provide that to you, which we hope will increase the efficiency of how you deal with EV charging inquiries with your business. And finally, we'll close at around 20 minutes of Q&A, and you can post questions via the chat as we go. We have a few technical experts also online with us, and they'll be able to respond to questions in the chat. And then at the end, John and I will also go through the chat where you can post questions and we'll respond accordingly. Let me give you a quick introduction to JetCharge and how we've arrived where we are today. JetCharge started in 2013 when we were Tesla's EV charger installation partner in Victoria. So when you purchased a Tesla vehicle, you also received a JetCharge business card. We were one of the only companies who knew how to install EV chargers at that point in time. At that point in time, there were very few EVs on the road, and so we were doing all the Tesla EV chargers across the country. So building on our work with Tesla, we then grew to work with almost all the vehicle manufacturers, and we completed national EV charging rollouts at dealerships for Volvo, Nissan, Jaguar Land Rover, and recently Toyota. In 2017, we started focusing on software development because we saw a number of gaps in the market, and that was particularly around EV charging load management. So we created our own in-house load management system, and that's hardware agnostic, and we've since seen that deployed in hundreds of commercial sites across the country. And as the EV market grew, JetCharge began to scale, opening offices all across the country and now employing over 160 staff. And so over this journey, we took on everything we could. And this was because we started as one of the only players in this space, and we would receive requests from just about everyone. And this was never the plan, though. We know that as the EV market accelerates and matures, there'll be too much work for the electrical industry, and we already know that's the case. And so from here on, from 2025 onwards, one of our key focuses is going to be on developing partnerships and working with electricians like yourselves. We know that to meet Australia's EV charging needs for the years to come, we need as many electricians like yourselves getting into this space, becoming experts of their own, and we want to help partner and promote your business growth into that area. So from 2025 onwards, we want to develop strong partnerships with electricians like yourselves and help you all become specialists in EV charging. We want to be your most trusted EV charging partner. When I hand over to John, who'll give an introduction to My Energy.
Thanks, Tate. So My Energy's been a company since 2016. So we're not an old company by any stretch of the imagination. I've got a jar of pickled onions that's been in my fridge for longer than 10 years. So it seemed to move from house to house. But even though we are a young company, we do have a lot of experience in the market. So the Zappy was the first charger in the world, which was a solar aware charger. So it's not a trend that we've jumped on. We've essentially started that trend. So it's something we're very proud of and we're aimed at building on. So we started with 6 staff, 2016. Now we're sold in over 30 countries around the world. We've got subsidiaries in Germany, Ireland, Netherlands, and Australia. And because we're sold in so many different markets, we have a lot of experience with different OEMs and vehicle standards. So in Australia, we have about 50 different makes and models of EVs. In Europe and UK, we're over 300. So we've seen a lot of the issues with charging from the very beginning because we were there, and we've had to work through all those problems and gone a lot greater for it, but we've got a lot of experience behind us as well. For a company that's less than 10 years old, we've got a fair bit of maturity and market share. So we've installed over 600,000 devices around the globe, and we're targeting 1 million by the end of this year. And sustainability is right at the heart of everything we do. We'd be hypocrites if we talk the talk without walking the walk. So everything we do is sustainability focused first and foremost, because that's a big part of our values and what drives us as a business. And I guess what sets My Energy apart from other EV charging manufacturers is we have a view to look well beyond EV charging, and charging car is just one small part of what our products do. So we develop a whole home energy management ecosystem through our other devices and via the app. So the customer has full visibility and control of their home energy use. And if they've got that control, they can manage how much they use and how much they spend. So it's a really important consideration. It's all designed to be out of the box and brand agnostic. So you're not having to worry about what brand of battery will work with what brand of inverter and that sort of thing. It all ties in together seamlessly. So it's a very customizable and modular thing that can be built on over time. And you've got one source of home energy management via our products.
Great, thanks, John. Good to know a bit about My Energy for you all. So I'll now provide a quick overview of the current EV market, as well as information around the opportunity when it comes to solar EV charging. So what you see in front of you right now is why we think it's absolutely critical to partner with electricians like yourselves to deliver EV charging across Australia. So this graph shows the forecasted EV sales through to 2035. And currently we're hovering at around 8% of new vehicle sales being electric. And last year in 2024, 114,000 EVs were sold in Australia. The Australian government has committed to net zero emissions by 2050. This is legislated. It's literally the law. By 2050, we need to be net zero in the emissions that we output. And so with Aussies owning vehicles for around 15 years, this actually means that we need to have sold our last internal combustion vehicle by 2035. And we need to do that to hit that net zero target by 2050. And so this means in the next 10 years, we need to go from 8% of new vehicles being sold as electric to 100% of new vehicle sales being electric. And that also means going from 114,000 EVs being sold in 2024 to over 700,000 EVs that need to be sold in the single year of 2035. So there's a long way to go from 114,000, increasing that up to over 700,000 EVs being sold each year. And so in the last 11 years, JetCharge has been part of the transition of watching EV sales go from less than basically zero, from less than 1% to 8%. And we've grown our business to 160 employees in this time. As a country, though, we know the largest step is still to come, and taking the country from that 8% figure to 100% of new vehicle sales by 2035. We also know that Australia lags behind the rest of the world in regards to EV uptake. John and the team at My Energy have seen this in the UK, and the most popular EV charging installer in the UK has installation wait times of up to 84 days. That's how much demand there is for EV charger installations in the UK at the moment. And imagine having to wait 84 days to get a charger installed at your home. So we know that demand is going to outweigh the supply for electrical services as EV and electrification across the country ramps up. And so now is an opportune time for electricians like yourselves to get into this space and specialise in EV charging. One important question to ask is where will all these new vehicles be sold? So as we get up to 200, 300, and up to that 700,000 figure of new vehicles being EVs, where are all these customers going to charge their vehicles? And so currently the data shows that 80% of people charge either at home or at work, but there's a strong preference for at-home charging because of the added convenience. And we already can't build enough public chargers. Over the Christmas break, you see videos, you see news about Tesla supercharging banks all being jam-packed because there's so many people trying to charge at once. And we can't keep up with that charging demand in public already. And so as the number of EVs on our roads increases and increases, that skew towards favour of at-home charging is just going to skew further. And that's exactly where electricians like yourselves are in the prime position to take advantage of this new industry. John will also talk a lot about the benefits of home charging when customers have rooftop solar. And when this is the case with rooftop solar in a home, home charging becomes by far and away the most convenient and the cheapest way to run an EV. So I'll focus now further on the opportunities of home charging, and it's really clear that pairing EVs and solar is a match made in heaven. Not as romantic, but equally important is the story that the economics tell. So 1 in 3 Australian homes have rooftop solar, and that's approximately 4 million homes. And electricians like yourselves are currently installing rooftop solar on over 300,000 homes a year. When we then look to the EV market, we've just seen the first EV model available in Australia that's priced at below the $30,000 mark. We also know that in 2025, there's going to be a huge uptick of more cost-effective models and a wider range of models arriving to our shores. And so as we start to see that these price and model availability coming down, what's going to unlock that rapid expansion into the 200, 300, 700,000 vehicles being sold each year. And when we mix this with the low servicing costs and the ability to fuel your EV for free from rooftop solar, EVs are soon going to make economic sense for consumers out there. We know there are already thousands of solar EV charger installations occurring each year in Australia, but this growth of rooftop solar, combined with the reducing cost of EV ownership, means that there are millions of homes in Australia that are primed for this home energy revolution, and we want to help you all become a part of it. So hopefully that sets the scene for the direction of the EV market and the opportunity that solar EV charging offers to the electrical industry and electricians like yourselves. I'll now pass over to John, who will introduce solar EV charging in more detail. John will talk about the benefits that offering solar EV charging can bring to your business and the home energy savings that it can unlock for your customers. And John will also go into the technical details of how the Zappi charger integrates with rooftop solar, as well as the dynamic load balancing functionality that comes inbuilt with the charger. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Dave. So what we really want to do with MyEnergy is help turn your challenges as electricians and solar installers into opportunities. So anyone who's worked in the solar industry for a while will know it's a pretty tough market out there at times, and there's a lot of people undercutting others and taking shortcuts to win work. So by having our products in your portfolio helps you compete against those cowboys and add value and purpose to your solar installs. So your solar array at home is a bit like your first year apprentice. To make it work for you, sometimes you've got to give it work and give it a job to do. So if you're able to make the solar work for the customer, they're getting really the bang for the buck for putting solar on the roof, particularly with feed-in tariffs and export limits that are being set. You might not be getting the maximum benefit that you were getting from your solar 5-10 years ago, but by able to self-consume that energy, you're really getting the maximum benefit. And by building a reputation for being a quality EV charging installer, it also creates opportunities to repeat work. So anyone that buys an EV is always recommending the charger they have installed at home if they're happy with it. And it's a really great way of getting free leads through word of mouth and not having to advertise to get work coming in. Being a smart charger, it's also up to date with any regulatory changes that come into play. So we've seen some changes in Queensland and South Australia around the installation of dedicated wall chargers. So being a smart device, we're ahead of the curve when it comes to those regulatory changes. It also has the ability to integrate with things like dynamic tariffs and energy plans. So in the future, we'll have integrations with companies like Amber, so the customer will be able to integrate with the wholesale market price for energy and be able to charge from solar, even if they don't have solar on the roof. It can also help fill gaps in your work schedule. So if you're a solar installer, you might have 2 or 3 days dedicated to an install. If you've got bad weather, if it's a 40-degree day or it's pissing down rain, you can't get on the roof. Having our products in your vans gives you the opportunity to fill those gaps in your schedule and keep the vans out on the road and keep the money coming in. And also helps customers replace their fear of going to electric with the independence. So because they're not having to wrestle with the public charges, they can charge at home. That eliminates that range anxiety and not knowing whether they can charge or not. They know they can leave home every morning with a full tank of fuel. It also allows them to increase their energy consumption without the guilt of carbon cost, as well as the financial burden, because they'll be saving money by charging smarter. And this is just to highlight some of the cost savings and carbon savings by your average homeowner moving to an electric car. So upgrading from a Toyota Kluger to a Model Y, which is a pretty similar equivalent, every 100 Ks you're saving about $5 just in fuel consumption cost. And that's just based on Tesla supercharging. And in the next slide, I'll actually go through the benefits from charging at home. So over the course of the year, you're saving over $1,500 based on 15,000 kilometres. Your maintenance costs will go through the floor because you're not changing spark plugs or timing belts or fuel pumps and things like that. So it's a very cheap way of staying on the road and not having overheads. And your carbon emissions will just go through the floor. So you're saving 4 tonnes of carbon emissions based on the Victorian grid mix with coal and gas and green energy. And if you're charging at home from surplus solar, it's 100% green energy. And this is just to highlight some of the benefits from having a home charger and being able to charge from your powered home. So compared to a Tesla supercharger versus charging at home on a standard energy plan, your cost to charge will will drop from around $34 down to $14. So you're saving quite a lot of money just by having the ability to charge at home. Then if you get into your off-peak rates, AGL have an EV plan where you get 8 cents a kilowatt hour between midnight and 6 a.m. So you're able to charge your car at night without having to worry about if you're going to have a full charge next day, if it charges while you sleep. Your charging cost drops down to $4. So $34 to $4 at a public charger, down to $4. That's a $30 saving every time you charge your car. And then we're seeing things like OVO have free electricity between 11 and 2 every day, which is a short window, but it's usually enough time for you to get enough power in your car and power all the other devices in your home while it's free as well. So there's a lot of money to be saved there. And having the ability to charge fast during those short windows really maximises the benefit of having a dedicated wall charger at home, because if you're not able to charge fast, you're losing the opportunity to get free or really cheap electricity. And there is a big opportunity for installers here. Last I heard, it was about 2/3 of EV owners in Australia rely on a triple charger at home. They don't have a dedicated wall charger. Triple charging is good in a pinch, but it's not really a viable or safe long-term solution. So it really becomes a bottleneck when you're wanting to charge quite rapidly. If you have a circuit breaker trip after about 2 kilowatt hours, it's a long time to make that energy back if you have to plug it in and start charging again. And they're often cheap and have no support when they fail. So if you're relying on a triple charger and it fails, that's it. You have to go to a supercharger or a public charger, or rush to Bunnings or a Jet Charge web store and buy a new one. So you could be waiting a bit of time. If you've got a dedicated wall charger at home, you've got that peace of mind, not having to worry about that bottleneck. And just to highlight the benefits of having a wall charger at home versus triple charging. So this is based on a charge that starts at midnight. If you've got 3-phase power, you're going to have a Model Y charge from 20% to 90% within 5 hours. So if you leave for work at 6 in the morning, you're guaranteed to have a full charge before you leave. If you're limited to single-phase power, that goes up to about 7 hours. So by 7 o'clock, you'll have your full charge from 20% to 90%. If you're relying on a triple charger, you're waiting over 21 hours, 22 hours. So it's a very long, drawn-out process to get that same amount of power in, and not everyone has the convenience to be able to plug their car in for 2 or 3 days at a time. If you think about a kettle might draw 2 or 3 kilowatts for 3 or 4 minutes. A triple charger is doing that for 20 hours at a time. So that does raise some safety concerns as well. And just to highlight that window of opportunity when there's that cheap energy, with the overnight plan with the AGL, you're getting full charge at that 8 cents a kilowatt hour. So, and with OVO, you've got 3 hours of power, absolutely free. If you're trying to make the most of that with a triple charger, you might only get 2 or 3 kilowatt hours in, and you're not really getting much benefit out of it. This when it comes to installation requirements for a dedicated wall charger at home. As part of AS3000, a dedicated 32 amp circuit is required, so we can't have anything else sharing the same circuit. We recommend using a 40 amp breaker for an EV charger. The reason for that is that an EV charger is a bit different to other devices where they can draw the maximum current for hours on end. So if you've got a 32 amp charger and a 32 amp circuit breaker, it's running at its limit for a long period of time and has the opportunity to nuisance trip. So recommend up-speccing to a 40 amp circuit breaker with Type A RCD. If it's a 7 kilowatt charger, it must be a 2-pole, so it can isolate the neutral as well as the active. A 22 kilowatt charger needs to be 4-pole. A combo such as an RCBO is perfectly fine. Isolated switches are a really good idea. They make it helpful for maintenance and troubleshooting, but it's not mandated by AS3000 as yet. All your cable entries into the charger require a gland or some sort of IP protection to keep any moisture out or dust out of the charger. Any dust or moisture enters the charger, particularly in ocean environments or where there's salty air, it can be very corrosive and shorten the lifespan of the charger quite significantly. When you're installing the charger on the wall, avoid anything that has a risk of mechanical damage, so nothing's going to bump into it or knock it off the wall, or someone's not going to drive into it and knock it down. and avoid having any strain on the charge cable and having it elevated, because it does create a trip hazard, and particularly into public-facing location. Public liability and that sort of thing's not cheap. So having an insurance case isn't much fun to deal with. So try and minimise any walkways that have a cable running through them. And each state and territory have their own service and installation rules. So it's important you keep up to speed with what's happening in your state and territory. Different states have different rules, particularly Queensland and South Australia, but also ACT and Northern Territory have limitations on installing chargers as well. So they do change quite quickly. So just make sure you're fully across those. Just getting into the Zappi and why the Zappi is a really great choice for having a wall charger at home. So we have had a lot of success in the UK where we're founded. In 2023, we won the Auto Trader Home Charger of the Year, which is really great achievement for us and something we're very proud of. And this was voted by drivers in the UK, so it was voted by over 200,000 people. So it does have a bit of significance and backing behind it, and there's some merit to what drivers are saying. So I just want to go through some of the reasons why the Zappi's been so popular. So if you've got solar or a battery, Zappi is a perfect choice. So it doesn't matter what sort of inverter you have. It doesn't matter if you've got a smart meter in your switchboard. It doesn't matter what brand of battery you have. Zappi is designed to be 100% brand agnostic. So it'll communicate with any inverter, any battery, and just makes the quoting installation process much easier, because just you know it's going to work. And having those integrations as well just makes the installation much more seamless. Just to explain the solar aware charge modes for Zappi and how they work. So Eco Plus is 100% surplus only charging. So an EV charger will only accept a minimum of 1.4 kilowatts. So in Eco Plus, it will pause charging once the surplus drops below 1.4, and we'll wait until that surplus goes above 1.4, and then when there's enough surplus to continue charging, Eco Plus will start charging again. There is a minimum green level setting as well. So if you want to make a percentage of grid power you're prepared to accept to maintain charge, you can set a minimum green level of 90% or 50%, whatever you like. On cloudy days, particularly ones in Melbourne where you have sun coming and going all the time, you might not want the charger stopping and starting all the time. So Eco is a really good compromise. So it will charge using surplus energy, but once that drops below 1.4, the grid will take over and make up the difference and keep that one continuous charge session going. Then in fast mode, Zappi is a charger first and foremost. It's not just a solar charger, so it's still able to charge the car at the fastest rate it will accept. So in fast mode or boost, you'll be able to fast charge your car with as much power as it will accept. And just how the ecosystem works and how the brand agnosticism works. Sun comes out, maybe it's an autumn day, 2.2 kilowatts coming down your panels, which passes through the inverter and converts from DC through to AC. We've got the option of adding a solar CT to the inverter. When that's solar CT is installed, you'll see your solar generation on the Zappi screen as well as in the Myinergy app. So this is a really great feature for people who have older solar arrays that have never had solar monitoring. It gives them visibility over their solar, which they've never had before. Might have 0.6 of a kilowatt going to your house load, such as your washing machine and TV, fridge, that sort of thing. And that leaves you 1.6 kilowatts of surplus energy, which is going out to the grid, and you might be getting 4 cents for it if you're lucky. So rather than give that away, Zappi will see that via the grid CT that's installed between the main switch and the meter. And then the Zappi will draw that power back and charge the car. And because the solar aware charge is inbuilt, it doesn't matter if your Wi-Fi goes down. It's very responsive to any changes in your home loads or export, import. So it will update itself every second to the nearest 0.1 amp. So it's very precise in how it uses that surplus solar and very quick to respond to any change. And on the Zappi itself, you'll see an LED. That will also change colour depending on where your power is coming from. So if you're using 100% green power, that will pulse green. If you're using a combination of solar power as well as a bit of grid power, that will change yellow. And then if the sun goes down, you're only using grid power, that will pulse white. So you've got a really quick visual of where your energy is coming from. Then if you want to switch to fast mode or boost, you can set that either from the Mindy app or physically at the device itself. So once you change the charge mode, the Zappi will draw the remaining 5.6 kilowatts needed from the grid to get you to the maximum charge rate of 7.2 kilowatts, and then you're charging at the fastest rate possible while still consuming any surplus that's available. And then when it comes to solar aware charging, the Zappi is really intelligent in the way it can, particularly with three-phase properties. So there are other solar aware chargers on the market, but when they're connected to three-phase, they don't maximise the total surplus solar available. So with a three-phase charger or three-phase charging, it requires 1.4 kilowatts per phase. So on three-phase, that adds up to 4.2 kilowatts. So the Zappi is able to net the total and switch between single phase and three phase. So if you've got 1 kilowatt per phase, you're not limited to 1 kilowatt and the charger not working. It will net the total and add up to 3 kilowatts and then deliver that on a single phase. The other benefit is Zappi can dynamically switch between single phase and three phase charging. So if you've got a 12 kilowatt system, something like that, when the sun first starts producing power in the morning, it will charge in single phase from surplus between 1.4 and 7.2 kilowatts. And once you've got more than 7.2 kilowatts of surplus, we'll actually switch over to three phase and charge in three phase up to 22 kilowatts or whatever your car will accept on three phase power, and will automatically switch between single phase and three phase based on the amount of surplus available. And then touching on dynamic load balancing, because this is something that doesn't get spoken about enough when it comes to EV charging, and I personally think it's equally as important as solar aware charging, particularly as homes electrify and they start consuming more power and electrify their hot water, stove tops and that sort of thing. There's a lot of older houses, particularly in Melbourne, that have 40 amp supply or even 32 amp supply. So an EV charger can draw a massive chunk of that power. So without being able to effectively manage that, you're at risk of tripping your mains or having to set a static limit and not getting the most out of your charger. So the Zappi was able to reduce its output once it sees it at its limit and get the maximum charge rate possible without risk of switching everything off in your home. So you have fastest wall charger available, but if your house mains are tripped, you're not charging at all. Just to demonstrate how dynamic load balancing works, you've got 40 amp mains, charger at 32 amps, so that's 75% of your home's energy use just tied up with your EV charger. Then you might turn a washing machine on, a tumble dryer on. It could be during that OVO plan where you get that free energy during that certain time of day. So you want to try and make the most of it while it's free. Then you turn the kettle on, all of a sudden you're at 50 amps, so you're 10 amps over your main switch. So instead of tripping, the grid CT on Zappi will detect that power draw. The Zappi will respond by reducing its output down to 22 amps and keeping below that 40 amp limit. And then when the kettle finishes boiling or there's more energy available, it will ramp back up to the maximum charge rate without overloading. And that's an example of what that dynamic balancing looks like in real time. So the experiment I did at my home, turned a few loads on, you can see the pink there where the house consumption spiked, and the Zappi is to reduce its output in real time and not trip the mains at all. Then when it comes to home storage batteries, this is a really important thing that we're seeing more and more. The battery market's just exploding. Well, not exploding is probably a bad word to use, but it's taking off. Yeah, it's taking off with EVs as well. So being able to effectively manage a home storage battery with an EV is super critical. So if you've got a 10 kilowatt hour battery and an 80 kilowatt hour car, if you're not managing that, your EV is going to be drawing your home storage battery and filling your car with your battery, and then you're not able to have any power in your battery to use it at night, and you're not getting any return on having a battery in the first place. So Zappi is able to manage home storage batteries in multiple ways. If it's an AC battery, such as Powerwall 2, you can actually add a CT to the battery inverter, and then you'll see the battery in your Mindy app. So you'll have visibility of what your battery's doing in relation to EV charging, your solar, and everything else. And also allow you to prioritise whether you charge the battery or the EV from surplus first. With a DC battery or something with a hybrid inverter, the setting we use is called an export margin, and that will triple charge the battery from surplus solar and prevent from discharging while you're charging your car from solar. Another important feature is, which probably makes MyEnergy different to other EV chargers, it has inbuilt energy monitoring. So you're not just monitoring your EV energy use, you're managing your whole home's energy use. So you get that full dashboard and consumption history, both in real time and historically. So you can track your whole home's energy use and identify where your weak points are when you're drawing a lot of electricity, and the opportunities where you could be drawing more electricity when it's cheaper. And having that visibility is really important. So we had a case in Ireland where we installed one of our devices and they kept on seeing 3 kilowatts of draw and no one knew where it was coming from. And they eventually tracked it down to a foot heater in a barn that had been running for 2 years and no one knew about. So having that visibility of where your energy is being used is really important, and it can save money and also save a potential risk if you've got power being drawn and not knowing about it. And then when it comes to support, this is something that MyEnergy is really focused on, and it really is a key priority for us. Being a smart device, we can't have the best charger in the market with the worst support. It's our mission to provide best in the industry support. So we work really hard to work with installers. We do offer free installer training, and we try and be really responsive. We also offer remote support, so we can remote in devices if required and make configuration changes or troubleshoot, so we can minimise the installer's time having to go back on site and try and troubleshoot themselves. So we have a support team based in Melbourne. Solar Quotes have a EV charger awards every year. Last year we got the gold medal for tech support, so that was ahead of the likes of Fronius and Tesla and SolarEdge, and really well established, really well known companies. So to have that voted for by installers is really important to us. Installers are the ones that are doing the work out in the field, and to get that recognition from them it is super important to us, because as far as I'm concerned personally, installers are our most important customer. If we win the customer, our job's done. And just to highlight some of the benefits of having a Zappi over a more basic charger, because Zappi is seen as a premium product and at a higher price point, but no one really tends to unpack the value of having a smart charger unlocks. So all these features here, not all of them might be critical to your customer. They might be something they are considering in the future, particularly if they might be considering solar or battery in the future. They need to think ahead rather than just right there and now. So saving a few dollars to get a cheap charger will cost them in the long run, because they're not set up or have to replace the charger when it's not doing what they expect it to. And we have been seeing that more and more often, the dumb charger take to the wall and a Zappi take its place because it's not doing what they expect it to. So your solar aware charging, dynamic load balancing, battery awareness, home energy monitoring, these smart features, they're all standard inclusions. There's no additional hardware, no subscription costs, and you've got a local support team as well to support you and the customer if there's any issues, which you might not get with a cheaper charger.
Awesome, thanks, John. Yeah, really great to get that detailed overview of the Zappi solar charger. You should shortly see another poll question appearing on your screen. And so I'll give you all a minute to respond to that before I introduce the JetCharge Partner Store in some more detail. Well, I'll quickly now just cut over to a web page where I'll do a bit of an overview and walk you through the JetCharge Partner Store. So this is the homepage of our JetCharge Partner Store. You can easily access it just by wholesale.jetcharge.com.au. But I'll just show you the chargers we have on offer. So you can click the Shop Now button, which takes you to a collection page, shows you a couple of Zappi chargers, shows you a range of EV charging stations, AC, DC, load management systems, EV charging cables. You can also use the side panel here to filter. And so what you can do is you can go to the My Energy Zappi filter, and this will then show you the options we have in terms of the Zappi solar EV charger that we've discussed today. There are 4 options. It can come in a black color or a white color. All 4 options have a tethered 6.5 meter charging cable. And then each variant can come either 7 kilowatt single phase or 22 kilowatt 3 phase. You can also click into the item where you get additional information. So it comes with the product overview here, has more information on the product. You can also access, importantly, the user manual, the data sheet, and the operations installation manual, so all critical for selling and installing and operating the Zappi charger. Also get a bit more explanation on the features, as well as the technical specifications of the charger. And then finally, it's also got information on the returns and warranty period. So you've got the warranty terms there, and also the JetCharge returns policy for the JetCharge partner store. For Zappi chargers as well, we hold them in stock, and so if you do order one, we'll dispatch it to you within the next day, so you can order and receive stock of this charger very quickly. I'll also now take you to another component of the partner store, which is the resources page. So the partner store really is, we're building this to be more than just a storefront for you to access pricing and order chargers. We really want this to be your go-to resource for all things EV charging as well. And so on this resources page, we start with what's on. So we'll list any events that are upcoming. The only event that we've got at the moment is this exact webinar that you're all in, but as we release more webinars or more in-person events, they'll be updated on this resource page. I'll talk about this install assessment tool shortly as well. We also share previous webinar recordings that we've done. So I mentioned at the start of the presentation today, last year we did an apartment EV charging webinar, and you can access and rewatch that webinar via this resources page. We also have a couple of articles on EV charging grants. So across the country, there's a number of EV charging grants, such as the WA Charge Up grant and the Driven Charger Rebate Program, which is for dealerships and vehicle repair shops. We also have a range of videos that kind of go over the EV 101, the EV charging basics. These are really good for yourselves to get across, but also really useful to share with your customers if they just kind of have some general EV charging questions as an easy way for them to upskill their knowledge on EV charging. We've also got a range of blogs that are really useful for electricians like yourselves looking to get more into the EV charging space. So we've got a guide on how to get started with home EV charger installations, also a guide around how to build your EV charging business. More relevant to today's discussion, we've got a blog post on why it's important to offer solar EV charging, and then you can also browse a range of other blog posts on here. I'll just quickly point your attention as well now to this install assessment form that we've built, and we'll share access and instructions on this after the webinar. But basically, this is a tool that we've developed that we think can significantly help you take on EV charger installations, as well as quote them more effectively. So I'll just log in so I can show you access to this. So when if you've created an account for the store and you're logged in, you'll be able to navigate to this resources page. Click on this install assessment form, and it'll give you this specific link to your account that you'll be able to then copy and send to your customers. So I'll give you just a quick overview of what this link looks like. And basically, it's a form that you can share with any of your customers that are interested in getting a quotation for an EV charger from you, both a regular EV charger installation or a solar EV charging installation. So it's kind of like a standard intake form. It asks for their first name, last name, email, all their contact details, asks them when they require installation, so you know kind of how urgent their project is. Also asks questions about their property type. Gives them the ability to tell you what type of car, what EV model they're purchasing is, and where that's going to be parked. And then it gets into more details around the installation requirements. So Whether or not they have solar is an important question to know when it comes to recommending a charger to them. We also ask them to identify if they've got a preferred location for the EV charger, and then they can upload photos of the house, of the preferred installation point, of the pathway from the cable pathway from the EV charger to their switchboard, photos of their switchboard. And so by capturing all of this information up front, you should be able to provide them a quote without ever having to go to visit their home, which just can streamline your quoting process and also provide a better outcome for your customers as well. So we'll share this link via email at the end of this webinar. I'll just quickly jump back to the final slides we've got. And so that's a quick run through of the store and how you can access specific product information. And also when you're logged in, you'll be able to see the volume pricing that we offer on the Zappi charger. There's different price discounts if you're just buying 1 unit, 2 to 10 units, or 11 plus units. And so if you create an account, you'll be able to see that pricing and access that installation form that I just shared with you. And so what happens next after this webinar? Please keep an eye out on your emails. We'll be sharing with you an email with a bunch of information and resources. We'll share instructions on how to sign up to the JetCharge Partner Store. We'll also give you a discount code to get 15% off your first order through the store. We'll also give you instructions on how to become a MyEnergy certified installer, which John touched on earlier. And we'll give you access to that tool that I just shared with you, which we hope and expect will allow you to share with your customers to quote and install more EV charging stations more efficiently. So that's everything for today. We'll now go into a quick Q&A with the remaining 13 or so minutes that we've got. There should be another quick poll that pops up on your screen, so please answer that and go forward and put as many questions as you like in the chat. John and I are here to answer any questions you all might have based on today's presentation or anything EV charging related. We've got a question here from James English. Given that it's likely that solar feed-in tariffs could reach $0, is there an energy management solution for homes to activate appliances, cooling, heating, EV charging to avoid this? John, give it a touch on that.
Yeah, so we actually have another product in our range called Eddy, which operates on the exact same principles as the Zappi, using that surface solar. But rather than diverting that to an EV, they can divert that to any large load around the home. Primarily, it's used for water tanks for the resistive element. But it can also be used for pool heaters, pool pumps, heat pumps, anything with a smart grid relay, which we're seeing more and more with heat pumps and compressors now. And also has the option of putting in a relay board, so you can use that to divert power to inductive loads as well. So in Ireland, we have a lot of Eddies installed in dairy farms as well, using that surplus energy to heat vats and things like that. So Eddies are another tool in our toolbox, which is really a Swiss Army knife of solar diversion.
Thanks, John. Got a nice shout out from Jack Martin confirming that MyEnergy have the best tech support team and he's ever worked with, and their installer's dream. So thanks for the shout out, Jack.
Yeah, see you in a few weeks.
There's another question here about is it possible to install a 3-phase 22 kilowatt charger on a single phase supply when trying to future proof the house for a future upgrade to a 3-phase supply?
Yeah, definitely. So a 22 kilowatt Zappi can be installed on a single phase property. I think there's a more recent firmware version, it might be 5557, which allows you to switch between your different CT settings. So with a 3-phase charger, if you change CTs to grid, it'll change all 3 to grid. But after the firmware update, it allows you to isolate them so you can switch between solar and grid battery and that sort of thing. But yeah, we do get a lot of customers that do install a 22 kilowatt charger for those exact reasons. If you are installing a 22 kilowatt Zappi on a single phase supply, I probably recommend you run 3-phase cabling while you're running the charger, and just connect the 4-pole breaker to a single phase, and then when they're upgraded to 3-phase power, just running the extra 2 cables into the breaker.
Please feel free to drop any more questions you might have in the chat. We've got another 10 minutes, so yeah, all open to any questions, EV charging, solar EV charging, anything at all. We can answer the next 10 minutes. Don't see many more questions coming through, but as I've also said, please keep an eye out. We'll send an email at the end of this with also include the recording of this session for anyone as well who maybe needs to drop off midway through. They'll get access to the entire recording as well as some of those other resources and links that I've mentioned about. Looks like we've got another question here from John Rutland. So question is, John visited a customer to quote yesterday. The main board was 30 metres away. Our subboard was 5 metres away. What would be the downside if feeding the charger from the subboard?
There's no real downside from feeding the subboard, feeding Zappi from the subboard. If it's a 32 amp subboard, that'd be perfectly fine. The only thing you'd lose if you didn't install the CTs on the main switchboard is it wouldn't see the energy import export to the entire home. So if it was possible, you could put the CTs in the main board and then connect that to the Zappi via a Harvey, and which is a wireless transmitter for CTs. And then at the subboard, you can actually put another CT on the supply to the subboard and set that to monitor. So that way you're load balancing the subboard as well as the main board. So if you had a 32 amp subboard, you had a car hoist or lights or a heater on that subboard, the monitor CT will load balance that subboard, and you've also got the load monitoring and the energy management from the main switchboard.
Yeah, great. I think this links into that question. Andrew's asked how far from the supply board can the CTs be? So it's a good opportunity to introduce that Harvey option as well.
Yeah, so the Harvey's got a range of about 15 to 20 metres point to point. So it is a wireless transmitter, so it's kind of treated like a Bluetooth speaker. You do want to get the Harvey as close as possible to the Zappi for optimal comms. The CT cables can be extended using Cat6. So we recommend using pink shielded C+ cable. And using the twisted pairs in Cat6, you can extend CT cables up to 100 metres.
Great questions, though. I think yeah, that's a really good question for everyone to have heard the answer to there. That was a common installation question and I guess issue that people come up against.
And probably one of the other benefits of Zappi as well is you're not having to install a smart meter in the switchboard, so you're not taking up so much space. And we do see how crowded switchboards can be. If you're only installing CTs and not having to find more room for a power meter, just makes the install so much easier.
Yeah, that's a common requirement for other solar-enabled EV chargers is to install a power meter in that switchboard. So yeah, Zappi keeps things a lot more simple by just having to clip on those CTs. Still got around 20 people on the call, so yeah, please type anything out if you've got any further questions. Maybe give everyone a couple more minutes just to think of any questions that they might think is useful for the group and for John and I to respond to. That's quite funny. Thanks for the question, Rowan. On V2G, I was just on mute there asking John, what other common questions or nuggets of wisdom can you share with the group? And he said, I reckon maybe we say something on V2G. So you read our minds there, John.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about EV charging these days without that question coming up. So Myonergy is working on a V2G solution. So at the moment, we don't know too much about what the final solution will look like. It will be an AC bidirectional charger. So it'll sort of be at a bit like the crown jewel of the Myonergy ecosystem, and that will tie in with all our other devices as well, with the Zappi and Eddy and Libby when that comes to Australia as well. So in the UK, we have our own energy storage battery called Libby, which we hope to have the next generation into Australia when it's available.
Yeah, great. Like, there's still, I guess, we'll still need to wait and see as the regulations and certification requirements for those chargers get a bit more formalised in Australia. But yeah, I think both of us, I'm sure everyone on the call, all the customers out there, can't wait for V2G to be available. So it's very exciting.
It's important to know that a lot of the cars aren't capable yet as well. So you might have someone with a 5-year-old Tesla thinking they're going to be able to utilise vehicle to grid. But it's a limitation of the vehicle as much as it is the infrastructure around the home.
We had another one come through here from Diarmuid saying, what kind of loads can I use with the Eddy? And yeah, the Eddy wasn't a product that we went into detail in our presentation today, but due to some of the questions that have come up in this chat, John's introduced it. So what kind of loads can you use with that, John? Yeah,
it's primarily used for electric hot water tanks. So if you think of like a hot water tank, it's kind of like a battery in a sense where it stores energy as heat rather than electricity. So with an Eddy, you're essentially getting an energy storage battery for a fraction of the cost. It can be used for heat pumps, pool pumps, any sort of resistive load, underfloor heat mats. It's got a maximum output of 16 amps and has 2 outputs. So it is quite versatile in the way it can be used as well. Yeah. Then we've got a couple of final questions here as well. Is the range of the Harvey going to be extended? Range of the Harvey? Not in its current form. It is something that is requested, particularly in Australia. I think Australia is a very different market to Europe and UK, where in those sort of countries they build up and have very small homes, whereas Australia, we've got 4 acre blocks and you need to get a bike and go from one side of the house to the other. I think last I heard that the next generation of Harvey is going to be IP rated, so it's going to be more flexible in how it can be installed. But I think there are some limitations with radio frequency protocol as to how far we can send that signal. So it is something we're looking at. If you're looking at pairing devices, you can actually pair multiple devices over Ethernet as well. So if you've got 2 Zappis 80 metres apart, if they're both connected via Ethernet on the same network, they'll be able to pair via the Ethernet connection. There's a question here about going longer than 100 metres for CT cables. Go to fibre optic. Could be done, I think. I couldn't guarantee how accurate the readings would be over a distance longer than that. Comment that if you go over 100 metres or 90 metres with the Cat6 Ethernet cable, then you typically need to go up to fibre optic cable. That might be an option. Yeah. We've got another question here around from one of the diagrams, you had CTs on the grid and the solar supplies. Do you require both to work correctly? And thanks for jumping in there. Only one's required. Which one do you want to talk about? Yeah, so the Zappi just needs the grid CT to be installed. The grid CT really is the brains of the charger and how it operates. Adding the solar CT is a really good upsell and see that full picture of the whole home's energy use in relation to solar. But the Zappi will work just with the grid CT out of the box. Well, thanks for all your questions. We've got basically at time. So we'd just like to extend a huge thanks to everyone who attended again today. Hope you got some valuable information about the Myonergy Zappi solar charger, as well as got a good introduction to the JetCharge partner store. As I said, we'll send an email including this recording, including instructions on how to sign up to the JetCharge partner store account, on how you can access a first order 15% discount, as well as some additional resources that we think will be valuable in starting and growing your solar EV charging journey. Thanks again, everyone.